Good afternoon. We are going on the record at 1:26 p.m. on January 15th, 2019. Please note that the microphones are sensitive and may pick up whispering, private conversations, and cellular interference. Please turn off all cell phones or place them away from the microphones as they can interfere with the deposition audio. Audio and video recording will continue to take place unless all parties agree to go off the record. This is Media Unit Number 1 of the video recorded deposition of Jennifer Larson, taken by counsel for plaintiff in the matter of Amanda Jane Bergquist versus Donald Malazzo, Jennifer Larson, James Barbero et al., filed in the United States District Court for the Northern District of Illinois, bearing case number 18CV03619. This deposition is being held at 10220 South 76th Avenue, Bridgeview, Illinois. My name is Craig Sinnott from the firm Veritex, and I'm the videographer. The court reporter is Suzanne Burke from the firm Veritex. I am not authorized to administer an oath. I am not related to any party in this action, nor am I financially interested in the outcome. Counsel and all present in the room and everyone attending remotely will now state their appearances and affiliations for the record.
Solomon Radner for the plaintiff, Ms. Amanda Bergquist, who is present and seated to my right.
Assistant State's Attorney Mike Gorman for the defendants.
Will the court reporter please swear in the witness?
Regarding this one, please do solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony about to
Did you ask Malazzo how the deposition went?
I did not.
You didn't talk to him at all?
I saw him as I was walking out of the office. We walked out. He said, they're going to ask you a lot of questions, and that was it.
Okay. So what have you done to prepare for this deposition? Anything?
No, I spoke to State's Attorney Mike Gorman yesterday. Briefly, we did a phone conference.
I don't want to hear about that.
Okay.
I don't know where we're going. Did you review any documents or any video footage?
I did not.
Okay. Is it against the law to take pictures of a courthouse from outside?
No, not that I know.
Okay. Is it lawful to arrest somebody for taking pictures outside of the courthouse?
No, not that I know.
Okay. Is there something
Keep your voice up, please.
Okay, sorry.
So I gotta get every word because it's on video.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this case at all?
Which case?
The case that brings us here today, that you're testifying in?
Yes.
Okay, and in a nutshell, what's the case about?
I would say that Amanda Bergquist is, I guess I called you to say that she was outside videoing when she shouldn't have been. So she's saying we violated her amendment rights.
You're correct. When you say when she shouldn't have been, what does that mean? Was she doing something wrong?
Just something unusual, what us as officers would consider unusual.
Unusual, okay. Depending on where you are in the country, Mormons are unusual, right? Depending on where you are, it might be unusual to see a Mormon. Do you get to detain Mormons in those places?
I don't know if people detain Mormons.
You're gonna have to speak
I don't know if they detain Mormons.
Would it be lawful? Just because it's unusual?
No, I don't.
Okay. Is there something unlawful about recording outside of a building?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Let me ask you this. Was Ms. Bergquist doing anything illegal when she was detained?
No, I would say it was not illegal, unusual.
Okay. In order to detain somebody, what do you have to have legally? Do you know?
I do not know the law legally.
Okay. Did you have any reasonable suspicion that she was committing a crime?
We had reasonable suspicion to ask her what she was doing and why she was doing it, just to get who she was and why.
You and I agree on that you had the right to ask her whatever you wanted to ask her. Did you have the right to put her in handcuffs?
For the security of the officers, yes.
Okay. What made her a threat?
Her refusing to give any information that was requested of her.
Was she legally obligated to give that information?
When an officer has asked her for security purposes to give her identity up, yes, we do have the right to ask for an identity of somebody for our safety.
Have you ever heard of something called a Terry search or a Terry frisk?
I have.
Okay, what is that?
I'm not going to say exactly. I don't know the law.
Okay. Well, let me just ask you this. A police officer is allowed to go over to anybody they want, demand to see ID, and if they refuse, they get to arrest them? Is that your testimony? Or detain them?
Can you say it one more time? I'm sorry.
Sure. Police officer goes over to somebody on the street. Let's call the person Mr. Plaintiff.
Okay.
Police officer goes to Mr. Plaintiff and says, hey, let me see your ID. And Mr. Plaintiff says, no. Is the officer now allowed to put Mr. Plaintiff in handcuffs and detain him?
I object. It's a hypothetical. It calls for speculation.
Yeah.
You can answer.
Okay. I do believe, yes, for officer safety, they do have the right to then, at least then do a pat down of the person's outer garments for their safety.
Doesn't there have to be reasonable suspicion that the person committed a criminal offense or violated a law?
As I don't know the law exactly.
You don't know when an officer is allowed to detain somebody?
We can detain if there is unusual activity.
Who told you that? Oh, sorry, finish.
Okay. To gather information. To gather information.
Who decides what's unusual?
A reasonable person.
Gotcha. What was Miss Berquist doing that was unusual? Just videoing?
Once I came out there,
Well, you put the
That's what
handcuffs on
you're
her, didn't
asking?
you?
no,
Were you there when she got handcuffed?
I was.
You put the handcuffs on her?
It did not necessarily help. I was there as the other officer did it.
Did you touch Miss Berquist at all?
If I did, I don't recall.
Okay. Was there any reasonable suspicion that she was committing a crime, yes or no?
We weren't sure what she was doing.
Okay, so if you don't know what somebody's doing, do you have reasonable suspicion that they're doing anything in particular?
No, but we have a reasonable response to ask what she was doing.
Right. Agreed. You could ask her what she's doing. And when she refuses to answer, are you now allowed to detain her?
Yes.
Who told you this? That you get to detain people who are videoing and refuse to identify themselves when asked?
In this case, are you asking me per our... Which are you looking towards? Are you asking just for like myself or per the sheriff's office?
Well, in this case, I'm assuming that Milazzo was calling the shots, right?
My lieutenant was there first, yes.
Your lieutenant's name is?
Lieutenant Milazzo.
Milazzo, right, okay. Now, I'm talking about in general. Who told you that you get to detain people if there's unusual activity to gather information, if they refuse to identify themselves?
Just in general, you're saying
general.
not in this case.
Yeah. Was it a training?
It was an unusual case in our courthouse. We are to stop and gather information to make sure that the situation would be secure.
Right, so who told you that?
I would say my department.
When did your department tell you this?
I cannot tell you exactly. I don't know.
Is it fair to say that this policy has been in effect for at least 10 years?
Yes.
Since 9/11?
Yes.
What's your rank?
Sergeant.
How long have you been a sergeant?
I have been a sergeant, 10 years. It will just be coming up on,
How long
so
have you-
9.5 years.
How long have you been working for the Cook County Sheriff's Office as a law enforcement officer of some sort, in any capacity?
19 years and 10 months.
What are the Miranda rights?
Our Miranda rights. I don't have, I would have to read them to you from a pre-written.
Okay. You at some point told Ms. Bergquist at the counter in the sheriff's office that she had an option to simply show ID, and then she'd be on her merry way, right?
I'm not sure exactly what my words were, but I do remember speaking to her, yes.
You conveyed that type of offer, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, I believe what you told her was that she's going to see the judge for recording at a courthouse, and she may or may not go home tonight. Remember saying that?
I do not.
Is that something you would say?
No.
You wouldn't say something like that. Because it's not true, right?
It may or may not be true. I don't make the rulings on what the judge says or what the judge does.
Right.
I can't tell anybody. I'm not allowed to even tell them. That is what the judge decides on sentencing verdicts, on anything that happens. That's not my decision.
Right, but didn't you tell her that she may or may not go home
Sorry for
tonight?
interruption. You're getting your mic seat covered. You might want to ask it.
Didn't you tell her that she may or may not go home tonight?
I do not remember that.
Is that something that you would say?
No.
Why wouldn't you say something like that?
Because as I said, it's not my decision on if she is or if she's not going home. It would be the judge's decision. If a judge decides to hold somebody, then they decide to hold somebody. If they say that they're free to go, they're free to go. If they set bond, I do not.
Right. Also, saying something like that to somebody, you may or may not go home tonight, it's a little bullying, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
What do you think? Do you think that sounds a little bit like a bullying tactic?
I'm not sure.
If you don't do what I'm saying, you may or may not go home tonight?
I'm not sure.
You don't think that sounds like a bullying tactic?
It's been asked and answered.
You don't think that's a bullying tactic?
Is this bullying? Can you, like, it's
You
been
think I'm
asked, it's
bullying?
been answered.
I'm bullying her?
You're asking the same question over and over. It's
I'd
been
like an
asked and
answer to the
answered.
question.
It's already been answered.
What's your answer, just so we're clear for the record? You don't think this is a bullying tactic?
Once more.
Your objection is noted. Tell her to answer the question, please.
Yeah, you can still answer them.
Okay, I'm not sure.
But it's definitely something that you would not say, right?
Correct.
In fact, you said to her that they take it not so lightly. It can either be an incident report or you can go to bond court. Remember saying that?
No.
You wouldn't say that either, right?
Correct.
At one point, I think you said to her, this is your last chance or you're going to be arrested. Ever say that to her?
No.
Were you standing by the counter with her while Milazzo was in his office?
I was standing in the office, yes.
All right. This is not marked as an exhibit, but I believe there's a bait stamp here that's SO7334-suspicious circumstance. It's the 2018 328 Axon Body 2 camera footage, which was provided in discovery. I'm going to play from the 2:15 mark.
I'm not recording this, right?
Right.
Take you downstairs, then you will be arrested. We will fingerprint you, and we will run you.
Is this what you want?
Remain silent.
Spanish to 204. Anybody sees the interpreter? Spanish to 204.
You'll go to bond court at 1:30, and then the judge will decide what he will do for you recording at a courthouse. So you may or may
Outside.
not go home tonight.
pausing it at 2:48. Did you hear a woman's voice just say you may or may not go home tonight?
Yes,
Who owns that voice? Do you know?
that was me.
So you would say something like that.
I guess I did, yes.
Is there anything else that I'm going to have to show you video footage for in order to get a truthful answer?
As I stated, I have not watched that video, so I would not say that I remember from something that happened almost a year ago.
Did Milazzo say to you something to the effect of, what the fuck is going on today? Every crazy loon in the building is coming.
I do not remember exactly that.
Okay. Would it surprise you if he would say that, or would you not be so surprised?
That would surprise me for someone to say that, but I do remember something being said. The exact words, I do not remember.
Okay. What did you mean when you told Ms. Berquist that she may or may not go home tonight?
Based upon what happens in court, a judge decides whether someone is set for bond, if they post, if they don't post, if they're released, if they're not released. It is all based upon what a judge does.
So you were basically telling her, give me your ID and identify yourself, or you're going to be in this limbo where you may not go home tonight, right?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
You were basically telling Ms. Berquist, give us your ID and identify yourself, or else you're going to go to the judge and you may or may not go home tonight.
We were requesting for her to give us an ID,
And if she wouldn't, what would happen to her?
that she would have to go to bond court, I think I said, for then the judge to decide what would happen.
And she may or may not go home that night, right?
Correct.
And you felt the need to tell her that would happen if she didn't give you an ID, right?
Yes, I guess I said that.
And again, the lawful basis to demand her ID was what?
So that we knew who she was.
Anybody you want to know who they are, you get to demand their ID and threaten to bring them to bond court if they don't give it to you in handcuffs? Is that the law?
She was outside videoing, which is something unusual, which is the reason why supervisor was called to go outside to find out that. That's the reason why.
Did you hear my question?
Yes.
What was my question?
Your question was, I can't give it to you exactly. I'm not.
I'll tell you what the question was.
Okay.
I asked you if you get to detain anybody who refuses to identify themselves to you and threaten them that you will bring them to bond court in handcuffs if they don't identify themselves.
So the question is,
Do you get to do that to anybody that you want as an officer of the law?
I guess I'm sorry, I'm not understanding the question. Are you asking if I can just stop anybody that I want and arrest them? So that would be no?
Are you allowed to stop anybody you want, ask them for ID, and if they refuse to give it to you, detain them and bring them to a judge where they'll have bond court and may or may not go home tonight? Do you get to do that to anybody that you want?
Who is acting unusual and suspicious?
Let's start
we have
with
the right.
Let's start with my question. Anybody. Do you get to do that to just anybody you want? Yes or no?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, the answer is obviously no, right?
I'm going to stick with I don't know.
Okay. You think that there's a possibility you get to just go over to anybody on the street and demand ID, and if they don't give it to you, you can detain them?
Not just anybody, no.
Okay, thank you. So we're on the same page now. Somebody has to do something to give you that right as an officer of the law, right?
Correct.
For example, if somebody acts in a way,
Acts, like A-C-T-S, acts?
right,
Is that what you're saying?
acts in a way
Okay.
that establishes reasonable suspicion that they're engaged in illegal activity, you get to do a brief detainment, right?
Correct.
And if there's probable cause that they're involved in criminal activity, then you get to arrest them, right?
Correct.
Okay. Was there any reasonable suspicion that Ms. Bergquist was engaged in any illegal activity?
She was engaging in suspicious activity?
I didn't ask you about suspicious, did I?
No.
What did I ask you?
If she was engaging in anything illegal?
I asked you if there was any reasonable suspicion.
God bless you.
I asked you if there was any reasonable suspicion that she was engaged in any illegal activity.
By the time I got there, I'm not sure what she was doing.
I'm asking you what your knowledge is. Based on what you know, based on what you saw, based on what you observed.
Based on what I know I was doing as I was directed by my lieutenant. I
Okay.
walked out there after the fact, so on what she was doing at the beginning, I am not aware of what she was doing at the beginning.
I want to make sure that when we get to trial, your testimony is still going to be, you don't know anything, you were only doing what your lieutenant told you to do. Is that going to be your testimony?
I know that she was videotaping. We are unaware of actually what she was videotaping outside of the building, whether it was outside or inside of the building.
Did you ever touch her camera or SD card?
No, not as far as I remember.
Did you ever delete any footage from her camera?
No.
Do you or did you have any reasonable suspicion that she was engaged in illegal activity? Not suspicious. I don't care about suspicious.
Okay.
I'm asking you about illegal activity. Did you or do you have, let me start the question over. Was there ever any reasonable suspicion that she was engaged in illegal activity?
I would be unaware of any illegal activity.
Okay. Yet she was detained anyway, right?
Correct.
Was she arrested?
She was not.
What's the difference between arrested and detained?
We were not. We were just detaining her. I was detaining her until further information was gathered.
Did you hear my question?
Yes. What was the difference?
What's the answer?
The difference is we were detaining while we were gathering information and not arresting to place new charges on her.
Did you understand the question I asked you?
Right. Detain is to hold to gather information, and arrest is to place new charges upon somebody.
Gotcha. So unless you put charges on somebody, they're not arrested?
We're not arresting her, correct?
Okay. So when you handcuff somebody in a public place, bring them into a sheriff's office, bring them in front of a judge, take their property, and search through their purse, in your opinion, that's a detainment, not an arrest, right?
Correct.
Okay. What would have had to have happened for it to be an arrest? She would have had to have been charged with a crime?
Correct.
So if somebody would have issued her a ticket after all of that, it would have been an arrest?
Or put new charges, yes.
What do you think of the way Milazzo acted that day?
In which regards? How do you?
Well, you heard that I'm assuming you heard all this. You were there, right next to Ms. Bergquist, while he was talking to her, right? Inside?
Yes.
Okay. And he said to her things like, you're going to go to Cook County Jail for 90 days, right?
I do not remember everything that was said. No.
Okay.
And I did not review any of the video to.
Do you remember him ever saying to her that she would go to jail for 90 days?
I do not.
All right. Same video, and this time I'm playing at 1540.
90 days.
Okay.
Let me back up a drop. 15:32, rather.
Okay.
Yes.
We're going to probably take her in front of the judge.
Okay.
He's going to hold her in contempt for, I think right now he's doing 90 days.
Okay.
So, is that okay with you?
Remain silent.
Okay. You realize you're going to go to Cook County Jail for 90 days.
Milazzo said, you realize you're going to go to Cook County Jail for 90 days. You heard him say that?
I did.
We're paused at 15:50 right now. Is that an appropriate thing for an officer of the law to say to somebody, in your opinion?
I don't have an opinion on that.
I understand that I'm putting you in a very difficult position right now because I've got you under oath and I'm asking you to testify about your supervisor.
Correct.
Okay? I'm doing it anyway.
Okay.
What's your opinion about the way he treated Ms. Berquist when he said that? Is that appropriate or inappropriate conduct for an officer of the law?
I do not have an opinion on it.
Are you afraid that if you say that what he did was improper or inappropriate or unprofessional, that you might face some sort of lashback?
No.
Okay. Then why is it that you're afraid or don't want to tell me what your opinion is?
Because I don't have an opinion. It's here nor...
You have no opinion about Milazzo's statement to Ms. Berquist that she would go to jail for 90 days.
I didn't even remember him saying it until just 20 seconds ago.
Right. But now that you do remember, is that something you would say to somebody?
No.
Why not?
Because it's not my decision to sentence anybody. It is up to the judge.
Is it Milazzo's decision?
No.
Okay, so can you think of any reason explaining or justifying Milazzo saying that to Ms. Berquist?
I cannot.
You still don't have any opinions about whether that was an appropriate thing to say to Ms. Berquist?
I don't.
If she would have shown ID, would she have been released? Or do you not know? Was it
I
Milazzo?
don't know. That would not have been my discretion. It was not my call.
Okay. The only thing that concerns me at this point is that I'm afraid when we get to trial, your testimony is going to change. After you say you reviewed all the footage and reviewed all the reports and talked to everybody, do I need to be scared of that?
No.
Nothing further.
Nothing from me.
All right. Since we've got so much time, let's just do Barbara, since we're here anyway. It won't be long, I assure you.
We're going off record at 1:54 p.m. and this concludes today's testimony given by Jennifer Larson. Total units was 1 and will be retained by their attendants.
Thank you, sir.